Star Citizen 3.24 is a small but important patch that changes the way we interact with the game on a fundamental level. So if you've had your head in the sand or haven't been following the updates closely, I'll give you the heads up on all the new features as well as some insight to help you get going. With the introduction of your own personal instanced hangars, true physicalized cargo and cargo contracts, freight elevators and storage item kiosks, our cargo and items are now more real than ever. But this comes with its own pros and cons. In this video, I'll be explaining the new features added in 3.24 and some of the things you need to know or might have missed to prepare you for an easier time in the verse, so you can save time, enjoy the game's new features, and of course, experience all the new exciting bugs with confidence. Your starting location now has greater implications than ever before. The city you choose to start in will now be where your personal instanced hangar is located throughout the patch cycle, and with it, a new way of interacting with your ships, items, and cargo. The biggest flyable ship on your account will dictate how large your hangar is. From small to medium, large, and extra large, your hangar size is currently only dictated by the largest flyable ship you've bought with real money and will not change based on ships you've purchased in-game for now. Right, CIG? So, choose your starting location wisely. I recommend selecting New Babbage or Orison. These currently provide AeroView style hangars, which are generally nicer, well lit, and with better common areas where you can now style and dress your hangar with personal items, flair, and furniture purchased at Kelto or your LZ's local general store, like Tammany & Sons on Lawville. Since these hangars are personal and instanced, everything you do here and everything you place around the outside of the ship elevator should persist through the patch or until a wipe, so make yourself at home. The persistence here is pretty neat to experience, but moving items and placing them reliably is a bit of a chore, especially with CIG's janky-ass physics and lack of item-based grids. Placing items on top of another is risky business, and trying to get your furniture to sit exactly how you want it can be tedious. I recommend rotating items against solid surfaces to better control item orientation. I'd like to see some kind of hangar overview tool in the future for placing and arranging items, which I assume could be based on the game's Rastar tech, which we'll eventually use for base building. Due to the instant nature of your hangars and the limited number of physical doors at landing zones currently, arriving and departing will sometimes place you in a queue after contacting ATC before a door and your instanced hangar become available. As a seasoned Star Citizen veteran, what's another few minutes of waiting on top of all the other waiting you've been doing? If you choose Lawville or Area 18 to start, you're given the Self-Land Hangar, a much darker, danker but industrial looking space. Both are functionally the same, it really depends on the kind of space and aesthetic you enjoy. New Babbage and Orison are both popular starting areas with ample access to quality ship components, items and contracts with popular surrounding moons and locations to run contracts. The first thing you'll notice when you load in and wake up in your Easy Hab is the storage item kiosks. These were added in 3.23 but are now fully functional in 3.24. Item kiosks have already deviated from their original concept, which required a two-step process in order to access items. Before, you would interact with the kiosk, search through categories of items, and move them into the drawer, which would then give you access to your items to be equipped. Now, however, it functions like the old local inventory, except you can now only access the local inventory by interacting with the item kiosk, as opposed to just pressing I. This goes the same for your ships. There is no longer an internal ship inventory you access by pressing I. You now need to physically place items in your ship's physical space to move them, or if the items are small enough, you can place them inside your ship's storage lockers and spaces if they're available. Later in the video, I'll explain how you can expect to move bigger items around in 3.24, as in many respects, this has now become a lot more difficult compared to what we've simply grown used to. The physicalization of items was always the original vision of the game, and as an active player since pretty much the beginning, it's been difficult getting my head around this change. Simple things like moving weapons, armor, and ship components from one station to another is now far more involved with extra steps. I'm personally all for it, but with Star Citizen being very much an alpha still, the added tedium on top of dealing with the day-to-day issues of the game, and in many respects lack of quality of life, it's easy to see why people are having difficulty adjusting to the bigger picture. You'll find item kiosks for accessing your personal inventory all around landing zone locations, but most conveniently they'll be in your hangar along with the freight elevator. The The freight elevator is how you interact with all of your items stored locally at the station. There are two screens, one representing everything you have stored locally in the warehouse, the other representing the elevator itself. In order to access the items from your warehouse, they must first be moved to the elevator. With the elevator retracted, drag the items from your warehouse onto the elevator, then raise it again. The items are now physicalized and accessible. You'll now be able to interact with the items and move them around using a multi-tool or your grabby hands. As you produce more and more items though, the sheer quantity can become difficult to deal with. Containers are now your best friend in 3.24, allowing you to pile items into containers inside the warehouse before cooling them up on the elevator. There are a variety of store-all container sizes ranging from 1 SCU to 8 SCU. So, with any new start, I highly recommend purchasing a variety of store-all containers from your landing zone store and using them to manage all your gear and items. However, not all sizes are available at all landing zones, and the larger 4 SCU and 8 SCU containers can only be bought from the LEO Low Earth Orbit Station cargo decks, such as Port Tressler, Everest Harbour, Seraphim Station, and Bajini Point, where all container sizes are available. Remember, you'll need to consider the cargo space available on your ship too, if you're going to use your ship to move these boxes around. No more ship inventory. Please note, you cannot drag ship components in or out of containers, as they are not hand carryables. You'll again need to use the freight elevator to move larger items and components. Large ship components take up a lot of space inside containers, but I do think it's worth using them for transport. Remember when I said containers would be your friends in 3.24? Oh yeah, you and containers are going to get real friendly. Your personal hangar is also where you can now retrieve your ship, delivered to your hangar floor using the new and improved ship Wonkavators. Like everything in Star Citizen, this can take a little while and you'll have a newfound appreciation for your ship's suspension as you watch your ship bounce and rise from the station's depths and into your own personal space. Hey, before we go any further, I just want to say that if you'd like to see more content from me, consider checking out my new second channel, aptly named More Detox, where I post lightly edited gameplay, updates, discussions, and reaction content across Star Citizen and other video games I know you'll like. Link is in the description. One of the most exciting additions to 3.24 is the introduction of hauling contracts and reputation. You can now take hauling contracts with no upfront cost and deal with the real commodities through the contract manager. Once you've completed the initial certification contract, you'll be offered a range of hauling contracts around the verse, ranging from local planetary contracts to solar contracts between the planets and moons of the system to interstellar contracts, which currently take you to Stanton's jump gates, but I assume will take you beyond the jump points with the arrival of 4.0. A Nomad with its 24 SCU cargo space is a great ship for running a bunch of the initial contracts before SCU requirements get too high. Currently, you can share contract-based hauling missions beyond the certification mission too, so if you had a friend that wants to share the load, you can both run the same contract, handling cargo beyond your capabilities while hitting the same or multiple routes at a time. You're encouraged to carefully select your routes in order to maximize profit. Sometimes being able to pick up and deliver multiple hauls at the same locations. These contracts always involve the usage of freight elevators at both ends of the route, and new contract-based cargo and mission cargo categories have been added to the game to facilitate this. The payout adjustments and economy is still of course a work in progress, but it's pretty decent so far, and with the introduction of hauling reputation, the higher your rep and the more hauling contracts you complete, the bigger the contracts and with it higher rewards. With this massive change to cargo, commodity-based cargo has also shifted to the physicalized realm. No longer will cargo magically appear inside your ship after purchasing at a trade or admin terminal. When purchasing cargo, you can choose to have it loaded automatically for a price over a period of time, with the loading time relevant to the size of the SCU crates you've ordered. Or you can have the cargo shipped to your warehouse to be loaded manually by you and your friends. Disclaimer, friends required. Depending on your crew size, available time and cargo space, it's up to you how you choose to approach the trade. Unfortunately, there is no way to load ships like the Hull C yet, so the only option for these is the automatic loader when docked at a port. Any exterior loading or unloading comes with new dangers, as your cargo will be vulnerable during the entire process. CIG has been touting the new dynamic event Blockade Runner for quite some time, and well, it's finally arrived in 324. Blockade Runner takes place at the LEO, Low Earth Orbit stations around Stanton. These are the stations orbiting Stanton's planets. In Blockade Runner, a criminal faction has attacked one of these stations, disabled its defenses, and raided it for its precious supply of Zeta Prolanide. In the process, they've apparently set up a blockade around the station, which seems to amount to lots of NPCs spawning within the station's vicinity, creating problems for anyone attempting to take off and land. The Civilian Defense Force, you, are now tasked with retrieving the stolen Zeta Prolanide from squadrons of criminal ships, already thousands of kilometers away, then delivering those supplies back to the blockaded station. It doesn't really make much sense to me that you've got to bring the supplies back to the origin of the blockade itself before, I don't know, removing the blockade, but here we are. To me, it really feels like you're just playing the supply phase of Xenothreat, and after doing a little research for the original announcement of the event, this was funnily enough exactly what they were going for.
We looked back at the other ones that we had made, like Xenothreat, and looked at the gameplay in those that players do engage with and they enjoy. And that was the aspect of going on those wrecks in Xenothreat, picking up the crates and delivering them. They enjoy this experience, they enjoy working together as a team to do it. So we thought, what can we do with that and make a new event?
There is a criminal side to the Blockade Runner as well, which I feel is a simple but clever way to generate some emergent gameplay on the side. When the mission is active, there'll be a contract available under the Unverified tab to find and collect the Zeta Prolanide, then bring it to the local scrapyard in the same system as the blockade. I like this because it promotes gameplay for lawful and unlawful players alike. Lawful players could set up an ambush at the junkyard and hit any unlawful players looking to profit from the blockade. Since you no longer have a local ship inventory, when it comes to looting and carrying large amounts of items that won't fit in a rack or your backpack, like armor and weapons, you'll need to place your looted items inside a container for safekeeping. This has, once again, become a little more tedious. When it comes to looting weapons and armor from bodies, you'll need to drag them off the corpse and onto the floor next to a container in order to be in range to drag them inside the box. The same goes for ship lockers. You'll need to either be wearing the item or it'll need to be inside drag range in order to store it. You can of course keep a container on board your ship and move the loot to your container instead of bringing your container to the loot, but, well, how you approach it is up to you. Good luck. Bonus changes now, and abandoned ships can be towed or salvaged with less repercussions. It's no longer illegal to damage, destroy, tow, scrape, or structurally salvage an unowned vehicle. So there are ships that are grey with just an ID number and no player association after a scan. Problem is, scanning is still somewhat broken, so getting the full lowdown on targets isn't always possible. It is also no longer illegal to tow ships outside of green zones. Scrappers rejoice. Atmo flight has been tweaked so there's less drag on the nose and yaw of ships at higher speeds, although we are still waiting for CIG's control surfaces showed off at CitizenCon last year, which will affect the atmospheric aerodynamics of ships in the future. Multi-tool tractor changes means movement and rotational speeds of tractor-beamed items are, for some reason, a little slower now. And you'll also need a max lift two-handed tractor beam to move 32 SCU crates. These can no longer be moved with a one-handed multi-tool. New locations have been added around the game's planets and moons, which appear to resemble the perimeter bases you find at distribution centers. I haven't found a use for them yet, they're even lacking loot, so could just be set dressing for now. Let me know if you discovered anything interesting at these new outposts yet. Night vision sights and scopes are in game, but at the time of making this video, they are unsurprisingly broken. They'll be marked with LL, denoting low light, and come at a variety of ranges. Unfortunately, the correct shader hasn't been added to all but the 3x scopes, and after searching for almost 3 hours myself for you guys, for this video, while finding plenty of LL scopes and sights, I simply could not find the working 3x one. Hopefully this is all fixed as soon as possible, as night vision is so desperately needed, even if it's just in scopes for now. If you've been missing even longer, consider checking out my Star Citizen 323 Features Explained video that should bring you right up to speed on Star Citizen currently. And if I missed anything in this video, please let me know in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching and being part of my channel. Thank you to my Twitch subscribers and my Meaty members on Fourthwall for your incredibly generous support to help me continue doing what I love doing, making content for you. If you'd like to support me further, consider coming by my live stream and or checking out my Fourthwall page below. Thanks for watching, meatbags. Goodbye.